tragic new problem. The Hellmouth, aka Sunnydale, California, has drawn vampires, witches, and other demons to its powerful vortex. Now it has also drawn the attention of an ancient sect of druids, allies in Buffy Summers' battle against the undead. Cloaked in darkness, wrapped in mystery, the druids descend on Sunnydale, ready to perform new rituals to summon forth a new world order, free from the evil that shapes Buffy's nights. But the Slayer's concerns are more immediate. Someone is stalking her friends. Cordelia, Xander, and Oz all are falling victim to this new spell. And not really, just mostly Cordelia. I don't think the other... And now it's up to Willow and Giles to find the cause, while Buffy stands between the mouth of hell and the new dawn.
Dawn. D-A-W-N.
What's with this capitalization? Darkness? New Dawn? Those aren't proper names. Return to Chaos by Craig Shaw Gardner is the 6th Buffy tie-in novel, released in December 1998. The plot involves druid warriors for the side of good coming to town just in time for the apocalypse, as a mistress vampire rises into prominence and takes Cordelia as her Renfield slave. The first example of a Buffy novel female big bad. Sort of. Similar to Child of the Hunt, it fulfills the role of a Season 3 episode, taking place sometime between Season 3 Episode 2 Dead Man's Party and Season 3 Episode 3 Faith, Hope, and Trick. It returns to the kinky, sexy tone of Coyote Moon, with hit-or-miss humor reminiscent of Blooded, and plays with a new love interest for Buffy, on the order of Owen in Season 1 Episode 5, Never Kill a Boy on the First Date. Gardner also introduces a few storytelling problems, reminiscent of actual unlicensed fanfiction, bad research and implementation of research, non-canon compliance, and Marty stews. While Gardner lacks the condescending parental tone of Golden and Holder, he does have an unfortunate tone of a clueless old man who doesn't really get the show. The book reads like it's written by a Buffy newbie. I get the sense that he watched through the series up to Dead Man's Party, took a bunch of notes, and then worked exclusively off of his notes, without really understanding the series or remembering all of the plot. There are a lot of little divergences on the order of, say, do you remember the time Xander was courted by the Inca mummy girl? And then just summarizing the episode, even though there's no reason for them to recap things, or noting that Xander jokes when he doesn't have anything else to say. Like, these are things that are worth taking notes on to supplement his memory of the plot and the character's speech patterns. But he shouldn't just stick them into the book because he wrote them down. And then there's just gaps in his knowledge, like not remembering the way Buffy's fight with Joyce went in the Season 2 finale, and writing that Buffy ran away from home randomly, and that Giles then told Joyce about Buffy being the Slayer. That is not at all how it happened. He doesn't really get Angel either. According to this book, Angel was Buffy's boyfriend, and then something, he turned evil, and Buffy killed him. And now Buffy's on the market for a new boyfriend, because teen girls bounce back. And it's not like there was any kind of huge emotional toil associated with her last breakup, so it might as well be a random vampire hunter who shows up and acts mysterious. Then there's an extended joke about a computer program that reveals the way the author doesn't understand anything about computers. Willow essentially writes a God program, able to predict Hellmouth activity to a degree of accuracy 1,000,000 times better than the best meteorological programs predict the weather from very little data. The joke is that it comes up with 1,000,000 different disaster scenarios that are equally plausible despite being outlandish, and it doesn't sound like a computer at all. It's a joke more appropriate to a Wolfram and Hart magical artifact that somehow knows things you can't reasonably program it to know. This isn't a computer problem, it's a Janet in the Good Place problem. And it's like a chapter long, plus callbacks to it later. Gardner thought this joke killed. Alright, let's get to the plot. It starts with Buffy and Xander tensely fighting vampires together, which is a thing they do a lot in this book for some reason, when they're rescued by a superhero? Like, he's supposed to be a druid vampire hunter, but the way he's described as a mysterious benefactor in a hood reads like an Arrow crossover. Buffy thinks he's cute because, hey, gotta replace Angel, right? And he runs off. The next day, Cordelia's popular girl rival, original character Amanda and not Harmony for some reason, randomly introduces the Scooby Gang to her 3 Welsh cousins, staying in Sunnydale for a bit. Ian, the serious one, Tom, the playful one, and Dave, the youngest. Yeah. Ian is the superhero, but Buffy isn't sure she can correctly identify him, so she doesn't say anything. In public. Yeah. Bizarrely, the Scoobies take a stroll down memory lane and summarizing past episodes amongst each other. This is where you get the, say, remember the time? And this all happens while talking to 4 people not privy to their secrets. Wow, that is stupid even for Sunnydale. The God program fixes itself, which I think it means it achieved self-awareness, and it states 3 prophecies that work together. Vampires will gather, a wave will purge the world, and a single night will mean the difference. The prophecies all read like fortune cookie messages. This program works very much the way a computer doesn't. Give Gardner credit where it's due. He predicted UC Sunnydale. He doesn't call it that, but that's essentially what it is. Buffy rescues a college student from some vampires, but one of them, Gloria, essentially a less interesting Harley Quinn, escapes and returns with a bigger posse. Buffy gets overwhelmed and needs to be rescued by the 3 Welsh boys. Yeah, she needs the male allies to protect her. Her Uncle George is their Obi-Wan Kenobi-looking leader. He fills her and Giles in. Twice, 2 separate times. Nice writing. They're druids, who secretly survived to the modern day. They hunt monsters, and they're here in Sunnydale because the Hellmouth is about to open and end the world. In this book's mythos, druids are responsible for the Old One's banishment from Earth into Hell, and Uncle Donald and Huey, Dewey, and Louie here can cast a spell at the Hellmouth site to stop it. He asks for the Slayer's help to guard them while they do it, and Buffy and Giles shortly agree. They seem like these great heroes with so much useful magical knowledge and practical demon hunting experience, so the Scoobies adore them as these powerful new allies, a hope for curing Oz's lycanthropy, and sexy new bad boys for the girls to go gaga over. It stands to reason that these official fanfiction efforts would run into some fanfiction tropes, and Gardner brings us official licensed Marty Stews. The concept of the Mary Sue has largely been distorted into a misogynistic cliché used by fandom dude bros to criticize any competent female character, so a lot of feminists want to throw the whole concept in the garbage, but I maintain confidence in its usefulness within the context of fanfiction. The term in its purest form references a popular form of fanfiction, specifically one taken on by female writers, where they make a self-insert character who is bizarrely powerful in the context of the story, distorting the original character dynamics, which are the reason people like the story, to have the male characters drooling over her, and her ultimately saving the day. The male analog is the Marty Stew, or Gary Stew, or Larry Stew, yeah. Where a male character appends the original character dynamic by being outlandishly badass, and having the female characters drooling over him. Both Sues and Stews would be fine protagonists in their own stories, but are problematic as guests in other characters' stories. And that's where Gardner goes with his badass druids. When it comes to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a show specifically about female empowerment, Marty Stews run into an especially murky territory where they run the risk of being actively sexist. When a badass male self-insert displaces Captain Kirk, it's annoying, but it's just 2 male protagonists competing for space. When it's a traditional male hero displacing Buffy and allowing her to relax a bit because a big strong man can take over for her, it's a reassertion of the patriarchal gender roles that the show actively subverts in its usual dynamic. This is a problem in real fanfic, but somewhat more excusable because the writers are still learning, and doing it all for free on the internet. When it pops up in official licensed merchandise, it's particularly problematic. Though not as bad as it could be, Buffy still gets to save the day at the very end. It does go against the show's main theme, and is thereby an inherently sexist element. Meanwhile, Cordelia is enthralled by a vampire, her former classmate Naomi, a secondary big bad in the narrative. Cordelia keeps her personality, but now randomly says things about how she must satisfy her mistress, and does things for her. It is remarkably similar to Dracula's enthrallment of Xander, complete with kinky gay subtext. I imagine both were individually extrapolated from various depictions of Dracula's enthrallment of Renfield, but it's intriguingly similar nonetheless. It's also nice to have a villain called the Mistress that isn't a transphobic caricature, as we would get in the comics. Though there is controversy among feminists if the title of Mistress is flattering to women, or inherently sexist, or carries inherent undertones of subordination to a master, the fact remains that it is what the traditional English language offers for high-ranking women. And there is a curious lack of them in show canon, while we hear the title of Master over and over again. Running across a non-transphobic female villain, making her thrall call her mistress in a Buffyverse novel, is refreshing. Aside from Naomi being a sexy dominant vampire trope, which, is a favorite of Joss Whedon's, Gardner attempts to write her as a standard Buffyverse villain in the sense of blending mundane high school drama with classic horror tropes. She is vampiric in a more classic, cinematic way than most Buffyverse vampires, and she is also motivated by high school politics and wanting to show up a rival popular girl. She stalks around, effectively sexually dominates Cordelia, calling her a pet, and also prattles on about largely inconsequential high school stuff. I can definitely see an homage to Buffyverse tropes, but the execution fails because of wooden dialogue and a general lack of Angelus's favorite emotion.
Without passion, we'd be truly dead.
As it turns out, Naomi is a super vampire. Kind of what Christopher Golden and Nancy Holder were going for with Chirayoju in Blooded. She can fly like the vampires in the movie, and turn people into tortured ghouls that can barely communicate. And she's Gloria's boss. As villains go, she's, serviceable. This is a character that should be compelling. She's a sexy dominant vampire with an extra helping of cruelty, like a cross between Carmilla and the bad guy in Human Centipede, but she's just not interesting. It reminds me of R.L. Stine just going through the motions. Whatever. Points for having an Asian main character without any racism, like in Blooded. A female villain, and what I think was the first use of homoeroticism in a Buffy work, even if it is with a villain. The book was released shortly before Season 3, Episode 9, The Wish first aired, so we got Naomi as a bi-coded, sexy dominant vampire before we got Vampire Willow, who dresses like a dominatrix and might attack girls in a homoerotic way in The Wish, and definitely does in Season 3, Episode 16, Doppelgangland. Plus, enthralled Cordelia isn't nearly as entertaining as enthralled Xander. She just stands around and almost nonchalantly responds to Naomi. I mean, yes, she's in trance, but that's no excuse to not write the character immersively so that I could empathize with her being in a daze. There's nothing like that. However, even the mildly entertaining vampire mistress is ultimately rendered subordinate to a male big bad, Eric, a local vampire supervillain who turns out to be a former druid, giving him magic powers beyond his vampire ones. He is both a source of Naomi's powers and is mired in the masculine druid element, displacing the original female empowerment dynamic, essentially the villainous counterpart of the Marty Stew. He enthralls George and has him abduct Willow for a human sacrifice to open the Hellmouth, which George mistakenly believes to be a spell to rid the world of evil. Oz uses his werewolf senses to track them, and then gets the boy band to help him take down their uncle, while Buffy takes on Naomi's forces. As it turns out, Naomi is better at attaining power than maintaining power. Gloria rebels with the help of Bryce, Naomi's ghoul, who doesn't actually like his mistress that much. Throughout the book, he makes a huffing sound, ha, ha, and he finally finishes with, hurt Naomi. It's not exactly hold the door, but it's a decent twist. The vampire forces are sufficiently destabilized, and Buffy is able to slay a bunch and send the rest running. Naomi is taken out, and Buffy continues to fight Eric in a scene similar to her taking on the Master. The boy band neutralizes his powers, and Buffy slays him. The boy band must move on to fix the druidic culture from this new malice that Eric introduced into it. And they can't help the Scoobies. Oz resigns himself to being a werewolf. Xander agrees that being Buffy's friend is better than being a badass warrior, even though that arc wasn't really set up. And Joyce awakens from a mystical sleep that George put her under. Yeah, the book treats that plot thread as an afterthought, too. The end. Return to Chaos is okay. It's not great, but it's not awful either. The humor is very, very spotty, but there are a few good jokes in here. For instance, Joyce watches The Stepfather on TV and feels glad that at least her life isn't that bad.
I understood that reference.
The racial politics of the book are much better than in previous books. Naomi is a creepy villain without any Yellow Peril subtext, like in Blooded. And there's no awkward attempt at anti-racism from ignorant white authors, like in Child of the Hunt. There might be a slightly offensive joke where Xander lists Indian chief in the list of occupations that he can't see himself in, but even that's questionable. He's literally making a list of outlandish things he couldn't be. By virtue of just not caring that much about race, while recognizing diversity, Return to Chaos achieves a decent level of racial progressivism. Religion doesn't come up in this book, so there's neither any cringy Christian message, nor awkward attempt to portray Willow or Xander as Jewish. I much prefer this secular take on the series. Gender-wise, well, he tried. Naomi and Gloria are decently entertaining female villains, and the demon-hunting boy band shows an attempt to appeal to the female teenage demographic, but the whole thing is thrown off by the Marty Stew problem, where a traditionally masculine element displaces the native female empowerment element. Buffy technically saving the day in the end doesn't make up for the fact that the book pushes her heroism to the side to focus on badass male action heroes. In the end, that's all that really matters to me. Next time, a return to Golden and Holder as they bring us the first serial in the tie-in novels, the Gatekeeper trilogy, starting with Out of the Madhouse. Based on the summary, Buffy must stop a knockoff of the Hellmouth from being opened. What's betting she'll face a knockoff of the Master, too? So here's something I didn't actually notice until the whole Joss Whedon scandal, but his name is on everything. So this is this tie-in novel, Buffy the Vampire Slayer Return to Chaos by Craig Shaw Gardner, the guy whose name actually deserves to be on here, and an original novel based on the hit TV series created by Joss Whedon. Why is his name on here? I mean, he's the name of the creator doesn't usually appear on the tie-in novel for a book that he has nothing to do with, except that he made Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and he wants his name on things. Star Trek, The Wounded Sky, a novel by Diane Duane. You don't see Gene Roddenberry's name on it? Even though Gene Roddenberry is this accomplished storyteller, he made Star Trek, he should be honored, but his name is not on this book because his name does not deserve to be on this book. It doesn't have anything to do with this book except he created this property. Diane Duane. That's the person who is relevant for this book, and that's what the publisher focuses on, Diane Duane. And no, his TV series created by Gene Roddenberry. No. Predator. By Nathan Archer. Cold War. Yeah, you don't see created by... Who even created Predator? John McTiernan directed it, but, Aliens. Alien Harvest. Robert Sheckley. Don't see James Cameron, who did Aliens. I don't see... Oh, God, what's his name? Dan O'Connor, Dan O'Bannon, who wrote Alien, and the other guy who... Yeah, you don't even... I mean, it's Robert Sheckley. And yet, An original novel based on the hit TV series by Joss Whedon. Why is his name on here? Could it be that he's an egomaniac who wants his name put on everything so that everyone knows who he is and everyone can praise him as this genius? Makes you wonder.